Hi, I'm Bob Bunch, and this is my wife Betty, who is the B in BWI. The purpose of this production is to assist our vendors, our customers, and our employees in understanding the culture of BWI.
Bob and I are both from Oklahoma. He was from Spiro, Oklahoma, near Fort Smith, and I'm a Tulsa girl. I got to go to college at Oklahoma State. It was Oklahoma A&M then, and my mother had an insurance policy, $2,400 that she had saved and paid for to send me to college. I'm an only child, and but she didn't have to use it because I got a job right after I went off to school. This was in Stillwater, Oklahoma, and so she didn't use the $2,400, which came in very handy later.
My roots go back to eastern Oklahoma, a little place called Spiro in LeFlore County. My family was involved in truck farming. We grew all sorts of vegetables, and there were 7 of us, and in order to make a living, you really had to have a good work ethic, and I learned to work, and that work ethic has stuck with us, and I've been able to use it in the activity of BWI. My first job out of college was with Ferrymore Seed Company. I was assigned 3 states, Missouri, Arkansas, and Kansas. We lived in Springfield, and those days when you traveled 2 or 3 weeks at a time, and I soon found out that I was going to have either a new job or a new wife, because Betty was unhappy because I had been gone for 2 or 3 weeks, and she was unhappy when I came back because I had been gone that length of time. And that sort of got us to thinking what we wanted to do, what our future would be. And in my travels, I located a place in Texarkana that was for sale for almost for the money that we could get together, at least the down payment. And so thus we came to Texarkana and started out in business on October 20th, 1958.
We had saved $1,000 during our first year of marriage. And so we put that into it, and then remember the $2,400 that my mother had. We put that into the business, and then our landlord was very accommodating. He said, well, if you can't pay your rent this winter, you can wait and double up and pay it in the spring. So that's how we raised the funds to start a business, $2,400 from my mother and $1,000 on our own.
In the early days of the business, I worked the retail side. We did not actually start wholesaling until in the early 60s, but we did open a second location in the Oaklawn area in Texarkana, so we had 2 retail operations. And when the weather got bad and the business got slow, we looked for other things to keep us going, and that was our first. We bought a pet shop and incorporated it into our seed store, and that was our first, I guess our second acquisition. The seed store was the first, so this was the beginning of a long line of acquisitions and expansion in our business.
I think I mentioned I'm a teacher, and I thought I would start back teaching in January of that first year, but about that time I discovered I was expecting Robert, and in 1958 a teacher didn't have a job working if she was pregnant. So I went to work in our store, which was the first 45 years of working there.
Well, another thing that we did to get us going in the retail business, we lived out on a little farm. We had a chicken house, and so we took the roof off of it and put plastic over it and made it into a greenhouse. So we grew our own plants, and every morning when I went to work, I'd have a truckload of fresh plants. Well, that drew in the customers and gave us an advantage over our competitors.
During these years, we had 3 children, 2 boys and a girl, and they learned to help with the business too. I can remember when the boys had their first job, it was working in the greenhouse, and they put little pots inside of a flat and put dirt in it for a penny a flat, so that was their first job. And they went all the way from that to helping in the store, sweeping the floor, carrying out fertilizer, and all those kind of things that were the basis for their interest in BWI. We learned a lot of interesting lessons during those years. The most memorable one was the contractor who came in and bought a squirrel monkey. And it was the cutest thing he'd ever seen. He loved it. And so he came back and he said, now, I have 7 workers working for me, and I want to give them each one of these monkeys for Christmas, so will you order them? I said, certainly, sir. So I ordered these 7 monkeys. Meantime, it got to be November and then December, and it was freezing and raining, and I never saw that man again. And there we were with 7 monkeys, and they ended up in the ceiling. They made nests on Bob's desk. They did everything you can imagine a monkey could do. Other than chaining them in a cage, there was no way to keep them in a cage. And that was our very first experience. Bob figured out how to get rid of them finally after we had asked the zoo we checked with a lot of different places where we could help dispose of all these monkeys, and no one wanted any squirrel monkeys, particularly in the winter. So Bob hatched the idea. He said, let me see what I can do. The next customer that comes in that would like to have one of these monkeys, I'm going to see what I can do. So this guy came in and he said, oh, well, that's the cutest monkey. If I had the money, I'd buy him. And Bob said, that's all right. If you have the money for a sack of monkey chow, I'll sell you this monkey on credit. And he did that 7 times, and I don't know how much money we collected, but we got rid of those monkeys. That was one of the most important lessons that we learned. The lesson was, don't sell animals on credit. If you sell a dog, it's really hard to collect for a dead dog, or to take one away from a crying child because they won't, the daddy can't pay for it. And so that was our first lesson that we learned. Don't sell animals on credit.
One of our experiences was with buying and selling coatimundis. One day a guy called me and he said, I'm traveling through Texarkana and I have this coatimundi. He caused me to wreck my car and I need to get rid of him. I'm in the hospital. And so I said, okay, bring him on in. I'll take him off your hands. Well, the first night he escaped from the cage. He has fingers like a person. He could unwire the cage and get out and he'd just get all over the store and crawl on up in the attic and whatever. So, but in the daytime he was very docile, and he loved women. And somebody came in and looked at him, he'd just put his arms around them, and just such a friendly little thing. So I sold him to a lady, and she took him home, and since it was nocturnal at night, it climbed on and pulled down her curtains and just really gave her a lot of trouble. And so I said, okay, I'll take it back. And I took it back, and then in a few days, somebody else bought it, and the same thing happened. It went wild at night. And then finally, the third time I sold it, there were 2 people that wanted it at the same time. And so I sold it to the third person. And when she called me, well, I said, we can't take it back, but I've got a name of a person that would like to have it. So this 4th person bought the coatimundi, and when she called me and said, I got to get the coatimundi back to you, I can't stand it, it's tearing up my house. I said, well, I'm sorry, I didn't sell it to you.
This was kind of in the early years after we had built the warehouse. I think it was just when we'd finished our corporate building, because we were proud of the landscaping there. And a snake from the pond back in back of the warehouse got into the warehouse, bit somebody, and we couldn't do anything. We couldn't have that. And so Bob, in his growing up years, had heard that and learned that snakes could be gotten rid of if you had pigs. And so he bought 3 little pigs, two females and a male. Not very much time passed, and we had 25 hogs. And they got out of the cage, out of the fences. We didn't have, I guess we didn't have a hog fence, but they were out and tearing up the landscaping. One even broke the window out of the warehouse door, looking at himself. And so we couldn't have these hogs all over. Bob was afraid they'd get in the street and everywhere else. So he came to the rescue again. He sold all these hogs, I think for $25 a piece, but he got rid of them all. and now we're out of the hog business for good. But of course, since then, he has had donkeys. He's had everything else out here, but the hogs are the most memorable, at least to me.
In the mid-'60s, we found out that the company I had worked for, Ferrimore Seed Company, was interested in working through distribution to sell their garden seed. So I immediately approached them. I said, well, I would like to be the distributor in an area of Texas, Arkansas, and Louisiana. And they had a lot of faith in me for the work I had done when I was with them. And so we were granted the Ferrimore distributorship on garden seed, and soon thereafter we were able to pick up Wolf Oak Chemical and Greenlight. And my method of operation, I would go out and, well, the very first, I would put some merchandise in my car that I thought was timely, and I would sell right out of my car. And as that picked up a little, I got a pickup truck, and I would haul merchandise and sell it and take orders for my next trip. And I soon outgrew that, and then I ended up with a gooseneck trailer behind my pickup, and I would develop a route, and I would have some merchandise on the truck that was extra that I could sell to people that needed something in a hurry, and I would deliver what I had taken orders for the previous week. So it was much of a win-win situation for me. By 1972, we were going pretty strong in the wholesale business, and we decided to sell our retail. So we took a partner in our retail, Gene Taylor. He owned 49% of it and had an agreement to buy the rest of it in 10 years, and which he did. So we exited the retail business and the pet business, and went totally into wholesaling, and we moved our business out here to Nash. When we started in the wholesale division, we had already built it while we both retail and wholesale. We had expanded our territory, and we began to add more items to our line. In the beginning, we were just seed and retail lawn and garden supplies, and then we added the grower supplies along about that time, and began to expand into the farm stores, and even we're doing a little mass merchant business. So we were off and running pretty good. And by the time we decided in 1972 to divest ourselves of the retail and devote our full attention to wholesaling, so we moved out here to Nash, and we built a new building. We built a building 42,000 square feet. Well, we had just a little merchandise in the front. We didn't have any racking or anything. Everybody thought I had lost my mind that I had built such a big building. But it was shortly we added enough merchandise and added enough new lines that we were running out of room. Even after racking it and getting everything put away, we still had we began to run out of room, and we've added on, I think, 4 times since then to our warehouse. 2
of our first dealer shows were held in the Nash warehouse. We used Jiffy pots to make our booths, and strung crepe paper around and made sandwiches and cookies to serve.
I had a couple of rules that I've followed and still follow, and that was always do what you say you're going to do, if it takes the hair, hide, and all, and above all, be honest, and and upright in all your business dealings, and that is part of the culture that we have always had, and it still works for BWI.
And his third rule is the customer's always right.
Well, a lot of times, of course, they would travel with me, and in the beginning, I would take them out on the road, and the new salespeople, and they would work with me, and sometimes I would work maybe straight through without lunch, and they thought that was rather unusual, and then usually test them up in eastern Oklahoma. I had a saying that if you can make it in Idabel, Broken Bow, Mena, you can make it anywhere in the world. So that was one of the places that we tried out our new salespeople.